You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, let's go to Virginia, where Jennifer Carroll Foy is running for governor. If elected, of course, she'll be the first black female governor in history. This is we have, of course, a sister who's running in South Carolina. That election is next year, but Virginia is actually next week. She joins us right now. Jennifer Carroll Foy, glad to have you on here. When we look at, I'm going to ask you the exact same thing I asked Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. When you look at the polling data, former Governor Terry McAuliffe is far, far ahead based upon polling. How do you close that gap? How do you compete against his fundraising, but also the notion that some people are saying that he is the inevitable candidate to win?
So thank you for having me, Roland. And I can tell you that I got off the polar coaster a long time ago. The polls got it wrong when I ran for the House of Delegates in 2017 while pregnant with twins, flipping a seat from red to blue, being out-endorsed and outraised. And I went on to win that race and then ended up having more votes than the governor, lieutenant governor, and the attorney general as a down-ballot state legislator. So it's hard to measure the energy and the excitement, the momentum that we're building. We have the wind to our back. It's not only about this historic moment in electing the first Black woman governor in the history of our country, but it's about time to have a working mom represent working families, someone who understands the challenges that Virginia families face. And then let's talk about inevitability. I know that a lot of people who are tuning in to this race believe that the person who has been elected before, it's inevitable that they'll be elected again. And it's not lost on me that people may be wondering if they tuned in to the right station when they see me, a woman with Black skin and ambitious ideas running to be the next governor in the former capital and cradle of the Confederacy. But we have to remember that it was inevitable for a particular person to be president until Barack Obama and Shirley Chisholm raised their hands. It was inevitable for only men to go into space until Sally Ride got on that rocket ship. Inevitability only happens if we allow it to. But Virginians are hungry for change, and we don't get change by recycling the same old policies and politicians of the past who left so many Virginians behind. They want a new leader with a clear vision and bold ideas for Virginia who has a record of getting things done, and that is me, and I look forward to having people's vote on June 8th.
When you talk about issues, look, Virginia has flipped. It's not purple. It's not red. It's it very much it is blue. And so what are the specific 2 or 3 policy items that you want African Americans to know about and why they should be voting for you come next week?
The policy ideas that I'm bringing to the table that I want African Americans specifically to know about is that, we're in the position that we are now where the cost of childcare, education, gas and groceries have gone up, but our wages have remained stagnant, that the racial wealth gap has exploded, child poverty has increased, and many of our Black and brown communities are in disrepair because they've been neglected and ignored by politicians of the past. So if we want something different, we have to do something different and then vote that difference into office. And I will bring bold transformational policies to bear. I will fully fund education, pay teachers $60,000 a year as a base salary to address inequitable funding of our schools. Millions of more dollars for our HBCUs and make them research and development universities. So the next best idea happens at a HBCU where we produce Black excellence across the board and as doctors and lawyers and engineers and nurses and teachers. And also, I will be sure that we have a $15 minimum wage that doesn't start 5-10 years from now, but transitions now here in Virginia. I have already ended pregnant discrimination, ended wage theft, passed Medicaid expansion of 500,000 Virginians while under a Republican-controlled General Assembly. So one of the things that people will tell you about Jennifer Carroll Foy is promises made, promises kept. And I will keep all my promises to uplift all communities in Virginia and have a Virginia where we leave no one behind.
All right, let's got questions from my panel. Let's start with Brittany Lewis. Brittany, your question for Jennifer Carroll Foy.
Of course. course. So I know that one of your platform initiatives has to do with criminal justice reform, and I would love if you could talk a little bit about how your experience as a public defender has helped you prepare and how it would ultimately affect your position if you win.
Thank you for that question. Yes, so I'm excited to say, yes, I was the first public defender ever elected to the Virginia General Assembly because there was only one voice that was predominating the conversations with a tough on crime narrative. But we have to be very explicit in the fact that a lot of the policies that were made were done with discriminatory and racist intent. And in order to address them, we have to have anti-racist policies, not just race neutral policies. So I am excited to say I've passed a bill to prohibit the use of chokeholds by law enforcement officers so we don't have an Eric Garner situation in Virginia. I've helped to pass a bill to ban no-knock warrants so we don't have a Breonna Taylor situation in Virginia. But as governor, I will be bolder. I will mandate civilian review boards, have them apply to sheriff's offices as well. Make sure they have subpoena power and they can delve out consequences. Because in Virginia, no one should be above or below the law. And it's about prevention and accountability is how we're going to end the killing of Black and brown people on our streets due to racial injustice. I will end qualified immunity. And I'll address the mass incarceration by addressing cash bail. In Virginia, you are more likely to sit in jail before your court date if you are Black, poor, and innocent than if you are white, wealthy, and guilty. We have a justice for profit system, and I've been fighting it from the courthouse to the state house every single day, representing people 100% below the poverty line who can't afford $100. So because they can't afford their freedom, they then lose their homes, their jobs, and sometimes even their children. So this is something I'm very passionate about, and I will bring true reform as governor.
Next question, Kelly.
Thank you. Regarding the fact that you are running in Virginia, you did already mention that it is the capital, the former capital of the Confederacy. That's a rich history that you, as a Black woman, is having to combat on a daily basis, certainly in your previous roles in the state. So my question for you is, as governor, what are your plans for shifting the culture from that stigma that still exists to one of diversity and inclusivity? So I know that you have taken down some statues, renamed some buildings. Will you have plans for the continuation of that? And what does that look like under your tenure as governor?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It is much easier to dismantle racist monuments and statues than it is to dismantle racist policies that's been put in place over a number of years. And so because I have been a criminal defense attorney representing the poorest amongst us, I've been a community organizer, a foster mom. I have seen up close and personal all of the opportunities that we have here in Virginia and the intersectionality between inequities in our healthcare system, our education system, our environment, and I will address them head on. For example, one of the ways that we need to desegregate our communities and our schools is by promoting and working with localities for upzoning and inclusionary zoning. And what that means is telling developers you can't build in these high demand areas unless you allocate a certain number for low and moderate income Virginians. That is a great way of people of different social and economic statuses being able to live together, work together, worship together. That's how we'll desegregate our communities and our schools. People can afford to live where they work. It'll improve people's quality of life because it'll relieve traffic congestion, and it'll help decarbonize our environment because we're getting more cars off the road. So it's that type of thinking that we need to bring to bear. These are things that have to happen. If not, we're just putting Band-Aids on our issues, getting us from one crisis to the next. We need a governor who's going to uplift our communities and bring real systemic change. And so it's not only about affordable housing and helping people, but making healthcare more affordable as well. So passing Medicaid expansion is just the beginning. Having a prescription drug affordability board that's going to negotiate the cost of our high cost prescriptions, because I too have had to make the tough decision between paying for my grandmother's mortgage to keep a roof over our heads or the medications keeping her alive. It's about putting every 3- and 4-year-old in full day pre-K so we can end that educational divide that starts as early as the age of 3. And it'll address the childcare issue, where inaccessibility and unaffordability has been issues before the pandemic because we pay our providers poverty wages. So ensuring to pay them more and subsidize childcare so people aren't spending 40% of their income to send their kids to childcare so they can go to work is a top priority. And making the investments in the communities that's been most hurt and harmed by mass incarceration and the failed war on drugs and disinvestments is a priority as well. Putting childcare centers there and job skills and workforce training development centers, making investments in our community service board so people can get the substance abuse, mental health, and treatment that they need, and more money for our at-risk schools who have high numbers of free and reduced lunch, English as a second language learners, and special needs children. Those are the plans and policies I will implement as governor.
Michael, your question for Jennifer Carroll Foy.
Yes, Jennifer Carroll Foy, thanks for coming on today. Quick question here. How will your policies help African-American-owned businesses in the state of Virginia, young entrepreneurs, maybe get access to capital, also getting state contracts? How will your policies help with that?
A great question. I can tell you there's a statistic that's out there that says 40% of all Black businesses who are closed their doors due to COVID will never reopen them again. I don't see that as a fact. I see that as a challenge. And so as governor, on my website at jennifercarrollfoy.com, I have detailed policies of how I'm going to uplift small businesses in Virginia, spur economic development, and help businesses upscale and scale out. And so for our small women and minority-owned businesses, I will, as governor, have 45% of all of our discretionary spending for goods and services spent with Black-owned and women-owned businesses. That is a historic number, never been done before. It will be done under a Jennifer Carroll Foy administration. I will put $50 million a year into my Rebuild Virginia Small Business Grant, so that way our businesses can have access to capital that they need, so they can open their doors if they close them and keep them open if they have survived the pandemic. I will have an angel investor tax credit and expand it so more businesses are able to receive that tax credit, and we can have more people take their private money and invest it into businesses to give them the seeds that they need in order to build up. And a tax credit for masks and PPEs, because that wasn't a part of people's budgets. And so having that tax credit will go very far to helping our businesses as well. So I'm excited about spurring more economic development and protecting and helping our small women and minority-owned businesses. And I'll have a special commission whose entire purpose and goal is to find the challenges and barriers for procurement contracts amongst our Black-owned businesses and address it in a real way.
All right. Jennifer Carroll Foy, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Good luck next week in the Democratic primary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.